Welcome to the Hardcore MBA podcast with your host, Erlend, Bakke. Would you like to have a free copy of the #1 international best-selling book, Never Work Again? All you have to do is rate, review, and subscribe to Hardcore MBA podcast on iTunes and email us a screenshot of your review to erlend@mroutsource.com.
Hello and welcome to Hardcore MBA. Our guest today was a self-made millionaire by the age of 27, where he bought his dream car, which he'd wanted since he was a little child, a Lamborghini. He's also a #1 best-selling author and has shared the stage with the likes of Bill Clinton, Alan Sugar, Richard Branson, Jack Welch, and Randa Zuckerberg. Those are a couple of names you may have heard of. Now, he started Wealth Dragons to help empower entrepreneurs to do what he successfully had done at a very, very young age. He's now working on his new book called The Wealth Dragon Way. John Lee, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
And at the moment, you are promoting your book. You're on TV, everywhere with your book, and it's quite hectic.
Oh, yes.
How do you go about publishing a book in a very smart way?
You know, it's interesting. When we started Wealth Dragons, we started many, many years ago. It's going back, close to 10 years now. And, when we wrote our first book, it was self-published and really no one wanted to know and no one really cared. And when we put the book out there, one thing we realized was that when we would contact publishers, they would not give us any attention at all. And so our first book was pretty successful, and it was still a bestseller, but it was so poorly done, poorly written. Literally, we just my business partner wrote half of the book, I wrote half of the book, and we kind of just copy and pasted it together, and then we put it online to sell. I remember waking up 7:30 in the morning and having put this up the night before for sale, and we woke up to 369 sales. I was like, wow, actually people really love this stuff. And so over the years, we obviously built a very strong platform. We got our message out there to the world, and our message really resonated with people. And the message is, you don't have to work in a job anymore. You can create passive income and have the passive income supplement your lifestyle. And so when we got the message out there, when we got real clear on the message, we started to create more and more followers. So, we started with a list of very, very modest list of 2,500 people with my business partner, and we combined our list together. And then we started creating a lot of traction. So when the message started to spread, now our TV channel, and that's something that we're creating right now. Our YouTube channel, it's had over 3 million views. We've had our social media, Twitter, we have 72,000 followers. We built a list of 100,000 clients as well. So you started to grow. And one of the things that we realized was that actually people don't care about who you are. They care about what your following is. And this is one thing I noticed. So I had this whole social media with our Facebook friends. We've got thousands and thousands of followers on our Facebook pages. And we had someone from Wiley Publishing, who published books for Warren Buffett, said, look, we love your message. Can you fly to Singapore? And so I flew to Singapore, I had a meeting with them. And the first question they asked me was, how big is your platform? They didn't ask me about who you are, what do you do? They said, how big is your platform? And I said, well, we put 20,000 people through our trainings a year live. And we put way more than that through our online trainings. Each video we put online, if you go to our YouTube channel, I'll see some of our YouTube videos. There's one video I put up recently, it had 183,000 views in 30 days. And so when I was showing them some of these stats and showing them some of the conferences we run, we have a conference coming up, we have 2,000 people there. And, that's what sold them. So a really smart way to get a publishing deal. And by the way, bear in mind, when we wrote the book, they said, look, they'd never worked with us before. We said, we're going to pay you to write the book. So they actually paid us money to write a book which didn't exist. And now that we've released it, it's become an instant #1 bestseller because we already have a platform of people who are already there ready to buy the book. which we've been seeding for many years now. So the best way if you want to launch a book is you've got to have a platform, you've got to get the message out there, and you've got to go with and people always say, shall I go self-publish or publisher? Publisher gives you more credibility, and I always believe that the quality of the books are always better when they come from.
You are cutting out a little bit. John, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, you cut out around 4 minutes. Okay. Yeah, so you were saying it's always good to have a platform.
Yes, absolutely. Platform is a must.
So how do you start building it?
Well, the platform is, I mean, it's one of these things where, I mean, it does take time. Now, there's two ways you can do it. You can do it the free model or the paid model. So, how we were able to build a list of 100,000 people in, again, a relatively short space of time. And it's all about creating value. So when you create value, the best thing to do is you want to create something for free and give it out there. So like what we do with our book is, and the reason why it's become a #1 bestseller is because when the book came out, we didn't just sell people the book. We just had to educate people on the book first. So when we started giving away 2 free chapters, so we said, hey, download these 2 free chapters. And, we just created a website, wealthdragonway.com, and people would go to wealthdragonway.com and they would just see the book, and then there's a button that says download, and then the moment they download it, they go straight into our database. So that's how, I mean, just in that, in a very short space of time, we're getting about thousands and thousands of people on there. And, these are people who have already read the book. So the best way to create the platform is you need to build your list. And most people, if I was to ask most people listening to this interview now, I say, how big is your list? Most of them could not come back to me with more than 50,000 people. Right? And here's how it works. When you build a platform, the economics of how the list works is every person on your list is worth $1 to you per month. Right? $1 minimum. Right? And then when you get really good at what we call monetizing your list, that can go tenfold. So when we talk about building a platform, first, before you build a platform, you have to build a list. Right, so there's a few things you need. Number 1 is you need to build your list. Number 2 is you got to build the celebrity branding around the list. So if you do a search for Wealth Dragons now on Google, you'll see lots of testimonials. If you go to YouTube and type in Wealth Dragons, you'll see hundreds and hundreds of videos, interviews that I've done with TV, radio. I recently was in the Edge magazine in Malaysia, which is, I mean, the readership on that is crazy. It's the #1 business magazine in Malaysia. And so, you've got to create a lot of what we call expert positioning. So when you create expert positioning, you then become the authority, and that's when people start listening to you. And the moment you start doing that, that's when people start attending your events. You see, when I first created the platform, I had to almost like persuade people to come. It's kind of like, oh, you have to come. It's like there was so much resistance. It's like people would be very skeptical. They'd be like, oh, well, why should I come to your event and all this kind of stuff? And I don't know who you are. And, over the last couple of years, we've really changed that. Now we have too many people attending our events. This weekend, I have an event coming. We had 2,334 people registered for that event, And so we have so many registrations because we've flipped it the other way around. Rather than having to convince people to come to my event, they're already convinced and they want to come. So it's very different to how most people who have a platform out there, when they build a platform, it has to be built properly so people actually want to come rather than you having to persuade them to come. It's a very subtle difference.
Sorry.
Go on, sorry. Yeah.
Are you now, is that a free event or is it a paid event? What is better to do in the beginning when you're first starting out?
When you're first starting out, you should always do a free event because most people who run events, again, there's certain styles that you want to run events in, and it just gives people confidence. So when you're running your first event, and my first event was in my office. I had people come into my office and, it would be like 2 to 3 people, 4 people, sometimes small groups of 10 people. And then we went from, having 10 people in the room to 100 people in the room to 500 people in the room to 1,000 people in the room, where now we're doing, 5 to 10,000 person events all around the world. So but you got to start off and you got to have the confidence. And so when you're running your first event, do them for free to start with, and then you start to then charge. And then when you start to charge, you start to then add more value. And then when you add more value, that's when you start getting what I would call event momentum. And a lot of people, when they're starting out, when they're promoting an event, they promote it too late. So like we promote 38 events at the same time, whereas most people, they promote one event, they wait for it to finish, then they promote another one, they wait for that one to finish, then they promote another one, they wait for that one to finish. We have an event in July actually, of this year, and we call this event a lifestyle business convention, but I started marketing this at the beginning of the year, so it's already been 6 months. And we've had close to I looked this morning, it was like close to 10,000 people registered for that event. So it also depends on what type of event you put on and why you put the event on. So, for example, you can do a free event versus a paid event. Free event is really good because when you run a free event, it introduces people to your concept. And people who don't know who you are, when they turn up, then it gives them an introduction. I always believe that you got to give first. When you give first, then straight away you start to create more value. You have something called what we call the goodwill bank account. And so when people are running free events, it's good, but the problem is now there's cost involved to it. So now you've got a cost. So if you're hiring a venue in London, for example, it's £10,000 a day, just for the room, So when you're at that event, you have to either make up your costs through sponsorships. So we have a lot of people sponsor our events. They'll pay $5,000-$10,000 per stand, and then you get 10 of those guys. That's already 100K, right? So that pays for your venue, which means you don't have to sell tickets. So there's lots of different ways you can do it. A lot of our events as well abroad, we get our events for free, because if you can bring a number of people to the event, then what happens is, do you want to get that?
It's actually a doorbell. I'm in Oslo at the moment, so I'm in an office that I don't usually sit in. So it's actually a doorbell. But I'm going to mute myself while you talk. So okay. No, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Sorry, where was I? I was talking about
talking about sponsorships and events.
Oh yeah. So for those people who are starting out, they go, well, if I run a free event and I've got event costs, because there are costs involved with events. You've got AV, you've got your room hire, you've got your crew, you've got housing for your crew as well. So hotel rooms, you've got travel, airfares. So there are costs involved with an event. But for people just starting off, just run the event. From your office or from your house, and just start off small and then work your way up bigger. So that's the advice I would give to someone who's running their own event. Our ticket prices it ranges from free all the way up to £10,000 a ticket. So we have a whole range of ticket prices that we sell, and the more celebrity status you create, the more you can charge.
So when you get 2,000 people in a room, is that a free event or is it paid?
It's a mixture. So what you have is you'll have a mixture of VIP tickets. You'll have diamond, platinum tickets, and you'll have gold tickets as well. Sometimes you might sell a product or a service and do a product launch. For example, our book. We're also running another event called Wealth Dragon Way Live. So everyone who buys a book's now on a list. So now they've actually paid for something, which they also get tickets to come and attend an event as well. So there's lots of different pricing, but it all depends on your audience. Some of the events that we run, we only have 100 people there, right? But these are what we call highly targeted. So for example, one of my businesses is a property fund. So, our goal is to get that property fund to £500 million. And so, but when you attract people, like your message to market match, you want to go out there and find the right people. So when we target these people, we only target people 45 years of age plus, and we only target them at CEO director levels as well. So only CEOs, directors, and people that aged 45 years or over will see this advert. And this advert, when they turn up, obviously, we create it into a kind of a cocktail type of thing, and when they come, it's all about building value, because we know that these guys, they have a lot of money to invest, like city bankers. They have a lot of money to invest, so they're going to treat these guys and gals. And when I say guys, I also mean girls as well. and target the market so it's a qualified crowd. So it's not always about the size of the event. My business partner ran an event in Kuala Lumpur where, in that event there was only 35 people, but we had 27 people go to the next level of investment for 27,000. So in that event that was like 729,000. Just in a very small room, but you have to be targeted because when people run events, there's a certain affordability level depending on what products you buy. So if you buy a low ticket product, then it's going to attract low ticket items in your room. If you do for free, for example, again, they've come there for free. Sometimes people, if you run a free event, sometimes people don't even turn up. So then it becomes a numbers game. So it really depends on what event you're putting on, why you're putting it on, and the objective of putting an event on as well.
So you are the CEO of Wealth Dragons. How much time do you spend on that versus your other companies? Because you're involved in several businesses.
Yeah, I have a tech business, which is literally going to revolutionize the way a property has ever been bought and sold. I have 3 property companies, one in the UK, one in Holland, and one in Malaysia. And then we have our education company, which is Wealth Dragons. And then we have our TV channel, which is called the Self-Development Channel. And that channel is created for people who really love to... I mean, if you want motivation, where do you go? I mean, you go and buy a book, but you can't actually watch a show with like motivation on there or strategies or, the things that... My message is that, everyone can go out, get educated, create a business that creates passive income so they can live the lifestyle they deserve. But if you want to learn that, they don't teach that stuff at school. So that's why I created a TV channel on it. So, and which will be launching pretty soon, actually. And in terms of time, I mean, I spend, it's interesting. Because when I started in property many years ago, Erlend, I was really just focused on money. It's like, my goal was to become a millionaire. And then when I got there, you kind of like, okay, so you've got this money, now what do you do? And you sit there, you're bored when everyone else, when you're free, everybody else isn't free, right? So then you kind of find this purpose. And my purpose, and so many people kept coming up to me and saying, hey, John, how did you do it? What did you do? So what I started to realize is the more you help people, the more value you add, the more money you make. And this is a very bizarre concept because you start thinking about, and I remember speaking to Richard Branson. I was on the stage with him many years ago, and he said, John, when you are in a business, you never think about money, you think about people, and you think about solving people's problems. And so I thought, well, what are people's biggest problems right now? And the problem is people don't know how to make passive income, or they don't know the strategies and step by step on how to do that. And so I thought, well, why don't I go out and teach this stuff and teach people? And here's the interesting thing that happened. Before the tech company, before the TV channel, before anything of that came, it only happened because I helped people. So I would have all these people coming through my trainings and my online trainings and my events and conferences, and then people would always say, hey, John, I got a hotel. Do you want to come buy the hotel with me? Or, hey, John, I've got this much money. I just recently met a lady, very, very switched on, and she deals with home offices. I mean, home offices, these are people with billions and millions of funds to put into things for high investment, royalty as well. And one of the reasons you asked me where I spend most of the time, I do spend a lot of time in Wealth Dragons because even though Wealth Dragons as an events company is probably my least profitable business, it produces the most opportunity for my other businesses, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So on the days where you feel a little bit distracted, confused, or you're not 100% sure what you're doing, how do you get back on track?
Good question. There's so many distractions in life now. I mean, we have a team of 25 people in our events team. And, these guys just put the events on in multiple places. And it's not a big team, but when you've got that combined with your virtual team, that's when it starts getting a little bit tricky. So, I'm the CEO, but I also have a CFO and a COO. So with the CEO, one of the things I learned is rather than trying to micromanage people, you do one message dilution. So let's say I want to get a message out to my team. I will relay the message to my COO, and the COO will then relay the message to everybody else, rather than trying to deal with one person at any one time. The best way to avoid this distraction, I mean, in life now we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, we've got WhatsApp, we've got all these things that, sometimes I'm sitting at the computer, I get a message saying, hey dude, check this out. So I click on it goes to my Facebook, and Facebook, I watch this video, and in the video it says, go to this website. I go to the website and end up, going down this whole rabbit hole. Whereas now, if I want to get things done, one thing I learned is you have to schedule in the time. For example, 90 days ago, I was 15.5 stone, and my body fat percentage was 33%. Now, I've come down to 87 kilograms, which is about 13 stone, and my body fat percentage has come down to 26%. And the only reason I was able to do that is because every single day I had scheduled in time to go to the gym. Because here's the thing, like, we all have 24 hours in the day. It's what we choose to do with the time that makes it what it is, right? So I remember just putting in these times and just blocking out the whole 90 days that every single day I need to go to the gym. Now, did I go every single day? No. But I probably went around 80% of the time. Because if it's not scheduled in, you're not going to do it. So my advice to people, you want to get stuff done, you want to avoid distractions, you got to have something called zone time. So my zone time is, I turn off the internet, so I turn off my Wi-Fi, I put my phone in the other room, and I put some music on called Focus at Will. And Focus at Will is designed for your neural pathways to get into flow. And flow is when you start working, and you look at your watch and you go, oh my God, it's like 5 hours have just gone by and it feels like 10 minutes. That's what we call flow time. When you get into flow time, you have to figure out what your strategy is to get into flow time. Every single one of us who's listening to this call right now and this interview, there's a certain pattern of flow that you go through, and your goal is to recognize it and activate it anytime you want to get stuff done. So people say to me, John, how come you're running all these companies? How come you can do all this stuff, run all these events, do all these interviews, these media press and all this kind of stuff? How do you have time for that? It's because I'm good at delegating, right? I'm good at, finding the best. I mean, I'm not a smart cookie. I just know a lot of people, and that's another reason why you want to build a platform, is because, like, if I need money now for a business, so I'll give an example. My tech business, needs another round of funding to 50 million, right? So I have contacts in Silicon Valley now. I have a CEO that manages that company. So the goal is, when you start a company, you want to create the system, create the culture, and exit from that business and let someone else take over and give them a percentage of the business. Because you pay people to do things, they won't work as hard for you. So, I have many companies that operated. For example, another one of the reasons why we run property events and teach people on property investing is I teach these people how to invest in property the right way. I give them the Wealth Dragon Way criteria of how we invest in property. And then they partner with me, and I say, every deal you buy, I'll teach you, and you have to invest in your education. And then every deal that you buy, I take 33%, and my business partner takes 33%. So I have people in different countries now buying property without me even knowing. So when people ask me, John, how many houses do you buy? I don't know. I stopped counting at 85. And we've transacted hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of property deals, and now, but they're not transacted by me. They're transacted by other people. So the goal, really, if you want to stop distraction, is to take what you know and teach someone else what you know very quickly, get them competent so they can go out, they get value, they make money, and when they make money, you make money at the same time.
What is your big why?
Wow. Oh, I have a lot of whys. My big why is, for me, I come from a Chinese background. My parents worked very hard. They moved from Hong Kong to England to start their own Chinese takeaway. And I see how hard they work. And I see how hard I had to work. I started as a dishwasher, working in my mum's Chinese takeaway for many, many, many hours a day. And I literally had no life. I looked at my family. They had no life. I looked at my uncles and aunties. Again, they were all taught the same model. Start a Chinese takeaway and then cook for a living. And for me, that just didn't resonate with me. Of course, it made a living. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. But I just thought there was a smarter way to do it. And then when I did some research on this stuff, everyone kept saying, if you want to make money and get out of this restaurant business, then you need to get education. You need to go to school, you need to get a job, and then you need to work for somebody else, and then you need to become a doctor or an accountant or a lawyer.
This podcast is brought to you by MrOutsource.com. Outsourcing to the Philippines done for you.
And again, that didn't sit with me either. I was like, why? Like, why do I have to work every hour to earn money? Why can't I just create something that works by itself and it makes money for me? And no one ever taught us this. And so when I look at my family, I look at two things. Number one, how hard they work. Now my parents play golf every day. But in the past, I looked at how hard they work. I look at my mum in the eyes and, you'd look at, she'd be so tired because she was ever only taught to work hard. And, one of my biggest whys is to teach people how to work smart. And because, I was never taught this at school. I only figured this stuff out when I started, an entrepreneurship when I was 21 years old, but I didn't actually take action until I was about 24. I got so sick of working in a job, people not telling me when to work, when not to work, when I can have holidays. And for a whole year, only have 20 holidays a year, and to work in a job and for, a big portion of that money to be taxed and gone to the government. I was like, why am I even doing this? And I realized that halfway through my work, I'd be working for 5 months for free because all that money would go on tax. I had to pay lots of taxes. And so my why is really to educate people and give them the opportunity that I never had, that I had to figure this stuff out myself. And my business partner inspired me because his daughters, when she was 6 years old, she started her own eggs business. She's now 11 years old and she's so switched on with entrepreneurship. She buys eggs for £1 and sells them for £1.50. I remember Christmas time when they took her to the Hamleys, the toy store in London, where they sell really nice toys. And so, Vincent was like, hey, let me pay for that. And Hannah, the daughter, said, no, it's okay, Daddy, I've got money. She opened the purse. She had like £350. At that point, it's like, 11. This is an 11-year-old kid. And now at her school, she now inspires other people, like her cousin, Isaac. The new film Avengers came out, and then when he did that, he started drawing the characters and giving them away for free. And she said, Isaac, don't do that. And he said, why? He said, because your time is money. And so now he charges 50 pence for every drawing. So I get inspired that, I was never taught this stuff at school, and I had to trial and error. And, through trial and error, I actually lost £4.2 million, by trialing and erroring this stuff and what works, what doesn't work. And for someone else to go through that journey of struggle, if I already know how to get over that struggle, then it's my duty to tell that person, as you did before this call when you was looking at some of the things that we did, and you gave a few tips on which I fully appreciate. And that is the perspective we come from, is to give people the opportunity we never had. In the past, it's always been rich people get richer and poor get poorer. But what if we can, the whole economy has been squeezed. It's like a toothpaste tube. You squeeze it in the middle, and toothpaste comes at the top or it goes to the bottom. Every single day people are getting squeezed, and it's the middle class that are actually getting squeezed right now. So my goal is to educate the world so they can start businesses, they can live their own life, they can, instead of just existing, they can start living, and really make a difference in what they're doing, and also creating a legacy. Because my parents never knew this, so they never taught it to me. One of my whys is to leave a legacy. When I leave this planet, the Wealth Dragon Way will still live around. The book will be around for many, many, many years to educate billions of people through many lifetimes. And if we can just make that little bit of difference, if we can start that ripple effect now, imagine what the world will be like. I don't think we're designed on this planet to just live forever. We are designed to evolve. And what that means is to pass our knowledge from ourselves to somebody else. And failure to do that is the biggest failure on the planet, to not have transferred your experience and knowledge from you to somebody else.
So you said at 21 you kind of knew, you kind of figured it out, but you didn't quit your job until 24. What does that mean, you figured it out at 21?
Well, when I was 21 years old, all these people kept saying, oh, you need to read these books. And I remember a book my mom gave me many years ago. I think it was the book Think and Grow Rich, if I remember correctly. It was something along those lines. And she gave it to me, and I was playing on my Super Nintendo, and she walked into my bedroom. I played computer every single day, and she gave it to me. At this age, I was 12 years old. And she said to me, she said, "John, if you read this book, you'll become a millionaire." And I just never believed her. So I just took the book and threw it under my bed and just carried on playing my Super Nintendo. And when I was 21 years old, when I started working, in a job, I was just like, wow, no one told me a job would be like this. Like, you work so hard to get your qualifications. You think it's going to be all rosy. When you get to your job, it's like, well, I have to do this every day. I have to fight through traffic, 3-hour commute when people are pushing me around and stuck in traffic jams and stuck on the train and the tube. And I have to work every day. I don't get home till 9 o'clock at night, and then I go to sleep and wake up and do the same thing. I got to do this for the next 30, 40 years? Are you kidding me? And so then I had to find a way. I had to find another way to do it. So this whole exploration period between 21 and 23, was kind of like reading books. And I remember my best friend Darren. I talk about this in the book. He gave me the book, one of the first books, and it talked about, hey, if you want to make money, don't get a job, create a passive income. And I was like, what do you mean passive income? And so, he's talked about property investment and, how people make passive income from property. So when you buy a house, you rent it, and let's say you have to pay the loan on the bank for the loan that they lent you to buy the house. Let's say it's £500 and you can rent it for 1,000. Well, 1,000 minus 500 leaves you with 500. So that's £500 every single month that you make. And I remember getting a pay rise of, I realized that every £1,000 pay rise you get equals to an extra £50 every single month in your bank account after tax. And I was like, hold on a second. If I could just make an extra £500 a month, and if I divide it by 50, that's almost like a £10,000 pay rise. So that means every time I buy a house, I get a £10,000 pay rise. And so that's how I thought about it. And so this whole exploration period, a lot of people listening to this have been to a lot of self-development seminars. They've read a lot of books, but they're still not doing anything about it. They know it, but they're not doing it. And if you don't do it, you don't know it. And so when I started to think about it, I thought, wow, I need to take action. And it wasn't until my boss pulled me into a room and said, your work's not good enough, we're going to have to let you go. That's when that shocked me, because all through my life, I'd been lied to. People say, oh, get a job and you'll be safe. No, if you're working in a job, that's the riskiest thing you can be in, because anyone can turn around and point a finger at you and say, you're fired. And so that's what I mean when it's kind of, that was my discovery phase, if you will. Oh, hello, you there?
So I forgot to unmute myself. So I was reading this book yesterday called Anti-Fragile by Taleb. He's a philosopher, Greek philosopher. And he was comparing a banker to a taxi driver. And he said that the banker making $40,000 a year is actually in a really fragile situation, whilst the taxi driver is anti-fragile, which you want to be anti-fragile, so you can survive in nature. Because the cab driver actually gets, maybe 50 to 100 rides a day, i.e. he has a few thousand customers a year, right? So it's unlikely that he's going to lose all his customers. But the banker only has one source of income.
So I'd have to disagree with that. I'll tell you why. It doesn't matter what position you're in, it's about innovation. You've probably heard of Uber.
Yes.
Uber allows anyone on the planet with a car to become a taxi driver. So when you have an innovation like that, you literally disrupt the entire market. If you look at something like Airbnb, started with a $100,000 investment, now worth billions. That allows anyone with a house who lives in a city center to become a hotel. If you look at something like in the UK, we have a video store called Blockbuster, where you can go to the video store and you can take a video cassette, and then you can take that video cassette and then and you rent the films. I'm not sure if you have anything like that in Oslo, but in the UK that's what we have. But now, you would think, oh well, people want to watch entertainment, but now you have Netflix, so that completely makes the previous business model obsolete. You know, so when you think about all these different business models that are happening right now when you're a taxi driver, I would have to disagree with that, because it's not about what job you do, it's about how you innovate. It's about how you're able to take a concept, like with property, for example. The way I disrupt the market, and the reason why the company's worth 20 million now before it's even launched, is because I disrupted the market. If you want to buy a property in Oslo, you have to, you know, you have to go to a real estate agent or an agent to buy that property. That's how normal people do it. And then when they sell the property, you have to then pay a commission. And you know, our platform allows anyone in the world to buy a property from anywhere in the world. And with one click, you know about the local crime rate, you know the average property prices, you know the average property rent, you know what happened in the area, you'll know the local amenities, the schools, the transport in one click. And literally when you, and on this platform, you can contact anybody in the world who've got the property on this platform and buy the property directly from them. You know, so that's how we've disrupted the market. And you know, that and if you look at tech companies now, I mean, I remember speaking to Randy Zuckerberg, who is Mark Zuckerberg's sister, who owns Facebook. You know, their company's worth billions, and Mark Zuckerberg's like, you know, the top 10, you know, richest people on the planet currently. And she said, look, Johnny, you want a company that's going to do well, then you've got to disrupt the norm. You've got to do what other people are not doing. So if you're a cab driver right now, you're competing against Uber. You know, I know a lot of people that used to take a lot of cabs, now they take a lot of Uber. They've got Uber apps installed on their phones, on smartphones. So they're really learning how to penetrate the market. So when you're thinking about diversification, and when you think about a banker who's only got one income stream, yeah, but you know what? A good thing with a banker is, you know, they make a lot of money very quickly, right? And even if they were to lose their job, they now have cash, and cash is king. So they could take that cash and invest it in something else. So it's really not about your job. It's about your knowledge. It's what knowledge you have. I remember there's a story of a guy by the name of Li Ka-shing, who's the richest man in Asia, right? And Li Ka-shing had a driver who drove him around for many, many, many years. So he was a driver, right? And when he came to retirement, Li Ka-shing wrote him a very generous check, tried to hand it over to him, and he said no. And Li Ka-shing says, why? You know, you've been working with so many, you've been so great. He says, no, I don't need that. And he said, why? He said, because I've been driving you around for so many years. I'm a millionaire many times over. He said, how? He said, because all your knowledge and all the advice, all the conversations you have in the car, guess what? I learned from that. And I take your advice on you know, investments, all this kind of stuff. So that big check that you've got for me, you can keep that because I'm already a million times over, right? So it's about the education. It's about the people you hang around. It's about being surrounded by the right number of people that allows you to do that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think the point that he was trying to make was that if you're an entrepreneur, you can have multiple sources of income. So it's difficult to get fired. Like if you have 100,000 people on your list, then it's difficult for all the 100,000 people to fire you all in the same day. Yeah. But if you're dependent on one source of income, then you're actually very, very fragile. I think that was the point.
Okay.
Maybe I probably didn't communicate it the best.
No, that's fine.
But in terms of innovation, I totally agree with you. I mean, these disruptive technologies, I really love them. I just love how they're dramatically changing the landscape of the society that's kind of become very institutionalized.
Correct.
And you see, like I think yesterday in California, they passed a law that all Uber drivers have to be employees.
Yeah.
Which is it's not ideal for Uber, but I'm sure they'll be able to work around it. They have money to defend themselves.
There's always a way. You know, here's the thing I know about people who are very wealthy, and you know, a lot of my friends. There's always a way around something. In fact, many years ago, they started the taxes to tax the rich. But now what's happened is rich people always know how to. It's not how much money you make; it's how much money you can keep, right? So they always hire the best people to find ways around it. And now what's happening? Everyone who's paying high taxes now, well, that's where we are right now.
I have a question about your daily habits that make you successful. You've mentioned already quite a few things. You mentioned the flow zone, working smart, not hard, and also scheduling things into your calendar. Do you want to add to that list?
Yeah, gym. You got to go to the gym and you got to work out and exercise because, look, if you don't make time for your health, you'll eventually make time for illness, right? So I always go to the gym as much as I can. If I don't go to the gym, I'll go for a run. Run's really good because everything's about state. How you feel, who you are, will dictate what you will or will not do. So if you're feeling really lethargic and tired, if you're overweight, go to the gym, man. Get fit, get in shape. Because when you get in shape, when you change a part of you, it cannot not affect anything else. So when you get in shape, you have more energy, you have more stamina, you can take more, you have more confidence. When you have more confidence, you'll do more things that's out of your comfort zone. And so action creates action. So I always believe that some of the daily habits I do, you gotta exercise, right? If you can't do it every day, do it 3 times a week, minimum, bare minimum. So that's one of the things I do. Another thing I do as well, I make sure that I have a task list, right? So I list down all the tasks that need to be done, and then I decide which one is worth my time, right? So, for example, someone might contact me and say, hey, John, we'd love to interview you on this show. So the first thing I do, that goes to my executive assistant, and she will then do research and say, hey, John, this person's got this many followers. They seem to have a pretty good reputation. I think it's worth your time. So then they'll come back to me and they'll schedule it on the calendar, and then we'll have a call. So I've one thing I learned in business is that you want to be successful, you have to say no, right? Because now we have so many opportunities. It's just crazy. I mean, if I look at how many emails I received, I've got 22,918 emails that have come in. And the amount of emails that I get from LinkedIn and Facebook, and so I have people manage this stuff. I have people who take care of what I call the $10 jobs, right? What we call the bean counters. So you need people to count the beans because it's not worth your time. So my number one rule now is anything I do from now on, anything. For example, I used to wash I love cars. I drive supercars, and I love to make sure they're clean, right? And I'm proud of it when I get to clean it myself. But you know what? I thought back to, hold on a second, that takes like 3 hours. So then you've got to work out how much you're worth, right? And how much you charge an hour, or how much you charge a day. Right now, if you were to spend a day with me, it cost you £15,000 a day just to sit down with me, and that is still losing me money if I was to do that. So because of the impact I can make on my company. So I always look at what the task is to do, and I look at the outcome. I find the best person who can deliver that result, and then delegate that to them, right? You got to be very good at delegating. Sometimes people don't do that because they're too much of a perfectionist. They want to do everything themselves, and you hear them say something like, "Oh, well, if you want the job done, doing right, do it yourself." That's a bad mindset, very bad mindset. Because then if you end up doing everything, you start stacking up all this stuff, and then now you have no time. I'm very precious of my time. I've spent many years, getting this, and people don't realize this, is that your time is the most precious thing you have. You have 24 hours in a day. You have 86,400 seconds in a day. What you choose to do with it and how you can use that time to make a bigger impact and to serve others, that's what it's all about. So for me, my daily rituals, you want to get systemized. I'm not a very systematic person, but look, if you don't run your life, that the world will run the life for you. So you've got to schedule in time to get stuff done. You're gonna block out time. If you can't do it, find someone else to do it. People say to me all the time, "Oh, John, let's have a meeting." And the first thing I'll say to them, "Look, is it imperative that we meet face to face?" If they go, "Yeah," well, it's a no then. So can we do it over Skype? Because I can see you can see me. The only difference is you can't touch me, right? So anything that requires less time. So I have 3 cleaners that come around every week to clean the entire house. It's a big house that I live in, and I have people come around do all my gardening. I have people cleaning my cars. I even have people cook. So I have people cook, but I do eat out a lot because I enjoy eating out. But I also have people cook for me as well. And if failing that, there's an app that's called Panda Food. So you can order anything you want, and people will go out and bring the food to you, or they'll cook the food for you and then bring it to you. So there's all these different things you can do. People tell me they got no time. It's not that they don't have any time. It's because they don't know how to allocate the time properly.
Are you? I understand you have a team in the UK. Are you also outsourcing any work to maybe the Philippines or any other places?
I used to. I mean, yeah, we do have an outsourced team as well. We have, some designers and some people, but I like to keep things in house. So, I have a team of 25 people in the UK. We have another 15 out in Malaysia, and in Holland we're starting to build that up as well. So yeah, our team is starting to grow. Our in-house team, our external team, we also have a lot of partners. So I have 369 partners that go out there and help us do things. And it's funny. I was in a. This is the importance of celebritizing your brand. Our book recently came out, so we went down to the bookstore, and when we went there was a few people there, and this guy turned around and he said, "Hey, are you John Lee from Wealth Dragon?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Oh my God, I just came here, just watching some of your videos and all this kind of stuff." And then he stopped me and he said, "Look, I want to ask you something because I'll probably never get an opportunity to see you again face to face." I said, "What is it?" And he said, "I would love to work for you for free." And do you know the amount of requests I get every single day from people emailing, "I want to work for you for free, I want to work for you for free." And these are people who are like, I have millionaires who, they want to work for our organization for free. And I think the reason why they want to do that is because of they want to hang around with people who are like-minded, who are like them, that can help them get to the next level. So when it comes to creating that whole mindset of success, you've got to be around the right people.
Absolutely, because you're the average of the 4 or 5 people you spend the most time with.
Absolutely.
The classic quote from Jim Rohn.
Yeah.
What current trends are you seeing in the information marketing industry, the event space at the moment?
I see a lot of trends in video marketing. Video marketing now it's always been around, but more and more now. I mean, it's so easy to get thousands and thousands of views literally just by doing it the right way. I mean, every video I put onto Facebook, literally within a few clicks can get anything from 20 to 50,000 views in a day, but it has to be done in a certain way. I don't do that with all my videos. I do that with ones with the highest marketing. And so what I started to realize is that the information marketing's changed a lot. Before, you could just send people to a page and people would then buy the product, right? But the problem is, time's changed. So what I've seen started happening now we have this whole concept of social selling and social ROI. So one of the things that everyone needs to do is build a fan page, for example. When you build a fan page, you build credibility, trust, and authority. And when you do that, you start to have more expert positioning. So I see a big trend. Everyone started to turn to this kind of expert positioning. I'm an expert. And that's why I run events on speaker training. That's why I train some of the biggest speakers in the world to deliver on platform, to sell from the platform, and to have a whole back-end system. Sometimes I meet some really good speakers, but they're amazing on stage. They have a massive heart, but they don't make money. And if you don't make money as a speaker, you can't get your message out to the world. So I've seen a lot of information marketing, number one, going straight into expert positioning, but also starting to transition into speakers, and now becoming, in our industry, we call them, celebrity speakers. So like when I go and speak at an event, I charge for my time to speak at an event. So now I've seen people starting to get that celebrity status and getting to, that New York Times bestseller, international speaker, best-selling author, and also doing a lot of joint ventures as well. So, I know some of the top marketers in the world, a lot of the guys in the US, in the UK, in Europe, and in Asia. These guys are dominating the market. And so I spent many, many years building relationships with these guys. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why my business is where it is, because I'm able to, in literally a few phone calls, speak to these people and get my message out to millions of people. So, and providing I will do the same for them. So, they'll say, well, John, I'm happy to send this to this as long as you help us do this. Or sometimes it might be, hey, John, I'll send it to 1 million people as long as you put me on stage in front of 5,000 people. I say, fine, done. So there's a lot, I see a lot of joint venturing happening now in the information marketing space. But I also see a lot of events, information on products being converted into conferences and into what we call the high ticket realm space. So like when I'm coaching people, I charge 50K, right? So it's 50,000 to work with me. That's a high ticket. Or the lower tickets, you have 10,000 of the lower tickets, and the lower between that's between 1 and 5. So when you've got products, I see a lot of the space changing from high ticket items from lower ticket items, because if you sell an ebook for, I don't know, £50, it's great for passive income, but you have to sell a lot of them to make £1 million.
This podcast is brought to you by MrOutsource.com. Outsourcing to the Philippines done for you.
Right, so I see transitioning to expert positioning, I see joint ventures being made, and I see celebrity speaking being involved, and also high ticket items. This is the trend that's happening right now, and also video marketing.
Why do you think so many not people but speakers struggle? So the average salary of a speaker doing it full time is like £30,000 a year. That's the average. So why do so many speakers struggle, and what is the one big domino that they can push over to make it happen in a bigger way?
Okay, well, I call this the speaker success formula, right? I've tested this in my own business. I've taught this to by the way, every single speaker I've worked with one-on-one has made a lot of money. So my success rate when I'm working with speakers one-to-one is 100% success rate. And I'm very picky with the people I choose and who I choose to work with. And so I'll tell you what I'm going to tell you, what I tell them. They pay a lot of money for my services, but I'm going to tell you because I think you're absolutely right. There's so many speakers out there who are broke. They have an amazing message, but they're unable to get that message out to the world because they can't afford to. And so there's 4 things they need to know. Number 1, they have to have a very strong topic. A topic that's different, a topic that stands out from the rest, a topic which is more of a category that does not exist. So, for example, one of my categories that does not exist, I teach people how to put on very big seminars, right? I charge £10,000, but I teach them how to put very big events on because no one else is doing that. And because no one else, there's only a handful of people around the world that actually know how to do this and to do it effectively and also to monetize it. So that is like my category. That's one of my many categories that I teach. In property, I teach people, and my business partner teaches people how to buy property and control property without a mortgage or without a down payment. That is again a category that does not exist or did not exist when we introduced it. So number 1 is you got to have a topic. That topic is, imagine you're the only person on the beach selling ice cream, right? So you got to have a topic. Second is that you got to have products, right? You got to have products to sell. Most speakers don't have products to sell, right? They don't know how to create a product. So the problem with being a speaker, if you're successful, is you're speaking all around the world and you only get paid when you speak. So one business model that speakers need to have as products is a passive income model. So even when I'm not speaking, I still have passive income coming in. I woke up this morning, someone just bought a product of mine for £10,000. I think it's great because that happens in the background without you having to speak. So they need to have this whole entire product range and business model behind this product range. That's one of the biggest things I see. Speakers still don't see themselves as speakers, but they don't see themselves as a speaking business, and it is a business. Number 3 is you need to have a presentation that sells. Now I'm talking about, I've taught this to many speakers where speakers stand on stage for 90 minutes and they make anything from $100,000 to $1 million in a 90-minute speech. And I have people saying this on video, so it's not stuff that I just kind of pick out. This is the stuff and real results that people are getting. In fact, I just had someone send me a message and he just, ran an event, and out of that 2-day event at the end, he got paid $105,000 for it. So this stuff's happening every day, but most people don't know how to do it because they don't have the sales presentation to enroll people into their programs, into their events, into their products and services. And the last part is you need to have an audience that turns up when they say they're going to turn up, and an audience that you give so much value to that they will come back and they will buy things from you. They are so happy to buy from you, and you get them results with your content, and guess what? The results they get from that, they buy again and again and again and again. So an example would be, people come to our property seminars and they'll pay £10,000 for a ticket to come to the advanced program. So when they come to that event, it's a very, like, people say, John, how can you charge that much? You're like, we are the most expensive in the market when it comes to events and education. And we're proud of that. And why? Why can we charge that? Because we deliver strong results. We have testimonials coming out of our ears, you know? So when we put an event on, you have to have that business model behind it where audience, they come, they learn, they make some money from what you teach them, and the money they make, guess what? They invest it into another one of your programs. So one of the biggest problems I see with speakers is they only talk about one topic. If you have one topic, you're going to go broke. I can talk about 5 different topics. In fact, I do. I talk about property investment, online marketing, talk about speaker training, I talk about Forex investment and business systemization. Right? And recently, a lot of people are getting me to talk about marketing all of a sudden. You know, so you need to create. So if speakers want to make if you want to become a seven-figure speaker, here's what you need. You need a product range, not just one product, but a product range and a product staircase. You need to have, you know, a marketing machine that promotes your events. You know, so you have, you know, thousands of people turning up to your events, right? And you also need to be good at designing a presentation and delivering with value content, so people get a lot of value. And all you need to do is add some more value, and with value, guess what? You have people pay for your products and services.
Do you think it's a case of speakers majoring in minor things, so they're focusing on like their speaking technique rather than, oh, I should really have a book? Are people not understanding the fundamentals? I
just think there's a lot of speakers that have no idea on how to market themselves. You know, they're bad at positioning themselves. They're poorly positioned. They're invisible. You know, they got a powerful. It's the old classic of, you know, people who want to become famous pop stars and singers. You know, they may be an amazing artist, but if no one knows about them, they'll never get big. So one of the things I do is I teach people how to get the message out to millions of people all around the world.
I have a few more questions here. I know you are a busy entrepreneur. So what is your favorite book?
Without doubt, it's the Steve Jobs autobiography.
Huh. And why is that?
Well, I just love his philosophy. I mean, some people may disagree with this, but one thing I noticed about successful entrepreneurs in the world, they have to sacrifice something to get there. You know, when he was on his deathbed, Steve Jobs was, he was still working on the iPhone 4S. He was going to die in 2 weeks, and he's still working on this. Most people would have spent time with the family. And again, most people may disagree with this, but when he wrote his book, the first 2 copies he said, "Give to my children, do not edit it." And the author said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I want to know, I want to give it to my kids so my kids will understand why Daddy never spent enough time with them, because Daddy was too busy trying to change the world." You know, in my book, The Wealth Dragon Way, I talk about 2 different types of wealth. It's not just about making money. Then you have moral wealth and you have monetary wealth. Moral wealth is if you are able to create an income and you can walk, you can talk, and you are physically able, then it's your duty to make as much money as you can, because the more money you have, the more you can give back. You look at people like, you know, the Warren Buffetts, the Bill Gates, you know, they've donated millions to philanthropy. You know, it's just crazy. So that book really teaches the lesson or two to, you know, even successful entrepreneurs that, you know, his level of thinking, it's like, you know, he has something called the reality distortion field, where whenever he would be with someone, he would always convince them that they could do something that they thought they couldn't do. And so, you know, like when they created the iPad and the iPod, you know, people were like, wow, it's like, how do you even do that? It's not even possible. But yet he managed to do it in like, a fraction of the time that most people could do it, because he made people believe. He was a great leader. And, you know, teachers are leaders and speakers are also leaders. And if you read the book, you know, Steve Jobs talks about, you know, being proud of your work as well, having your work live on. He was good at having his team involved, and his team really believed in him. In fact, so much so that he got his whole team to sign the inside of a computer. And people were like, why are you doing this? No one's going to see it. He says, I know, but you know. And no one's going to know our name is there. Yeah, I know, but you know. And when he was creating the circuit boards, circuit boards, they had to be very meticulous about the circuit boards and how neat they had to be. His branding, his vision, his whole philosophy around, aesthetics. If something is really, really good on the inside, then it has to look really, really, really good on the outside. And it's just this attention to detail. So when you get to learn from entrepreneurs like this, and when he was talking about the circuit board, like all these engineers would be really messy with the circuit board, and he'd be like, no, make that circuit board again, make it neat, make it equal spacing, make it look nice. And the engineers were like, why? No one's gonna know, no one's gonna see it. And then Steve Jobs said, no, but I know. So very meticulous, and I think that's kind of one of the things I like about his mindset is, there's this whole saying of how you do anything is how you do everything.
So is that also the entrepreneur that really inspires you?
Yes. If it was one person I wish I could have shared the stage with, I wish I could have seen Steve Jobs and met Steve Jobs. I mean, the guy's a legend.
Where do you see yourself in about 3 years' time?
3 years, Wealth Dragon's vision is to IPO, so to go initial public offering, so we float on the stock exchange, and to be the first billion-dollar company in the world that actually changes people's lives. You have billion-dollar companies like McDonald's that when you eat the food, it's maybe not so good for you, maybe. Or Coca-Cola, when people drink Coca-Cola, it's arguable. If you look at games companies, they're billion-dollar companies, but they're designed to make kids, waste kids' time and condition them, and I don't know, I just want something where instead of people putting garbage into their head, they're putting good stuff into their head, And so that's why, we'll have a TV channel. We're even in talks of a film which we can use to inspire people around the world, and also a West End play which we've already started writing the musical score for. So people will be able to go, instead of watching Lion King, they can watch our play, which is going to motivate them and going to really inspire them to take action and do something about their life if they're not happy with it. So that's where we'll be.
So IPO and Broadway show inspiring billions of people.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So where can we get more information about you? If you listen to this podcast and you're really, really fired up now, where can we go to get more information?
Oh, there's lots of resources. First of all, go to wealthdragonway.com and you can download 2 free chapters of our new book. So wealthdragonway.com. And once you've done that, if you want to watch I've got a lot of free video training out there. If you go to YouTube and just type in John Lee Wealth Dragons, there's lots and lots and lots of video content there on how to invest, how to start a business, how to become a speaker. There's so much stuff that I've got online. And if you're in the UK, make sure you pop along to our events. If you want a list of all our events, and we have paid events, but we also have free events as well. You can go to wealthdragons.com and you can see the list of all the events there. And if you've got a question that you'd like to ask me, then just send me an email to John@wealth. In fact, you know what? Send it to my executive assistant. If you send it to John, you won't. I got thousands of emails. I probably won't reply. So send an email to Jen, Jen, @wealthdragons.co.uk. That's Jen, Jen, @wealthdragons.co.uk. If there's anything you want to sort of ask me personally.
Fantastic. This has been an interview with so many insights. So guys, please go check out John's new book, The Wealth Dragon Way. You can get it on Amazon. You can also go to one of the free events if you're in the UK and check out everything online. Thank you for listening to this episode of Hardcore MBA. If you do enjoy these episodes, then please go to iTunes and just write a quick review. I've actually timed it. You know that I like timing things. It takes 3 minutes of your time to write a review, but that helps us really spread the word and get the message out there. You have been listening to Hardcore MBA. My name is Erlend Bakke, and today we had John Lee from Wealth Dragons. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Erlend. I appreciate it. Thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by MrOutsource.com. Outsourcing to the Philippines done for you. Mr. Outsource is a recruitment company matching busy entrepreneurs with Filipino virtual assistants, so you can have the time to focus on what's important.